Megyn Kelly spoke very clearly and did not hide what she was thinking. She looked right at the camera and said something that many people had only been whispering about in secret. She asked a big question: is Meghan Markle really 44 years old, or is she actually over 50? That one sentence started a huge fire for a story that has been waiting to come out for years. This is not just idle gossip or a random rumor. This is about real papers, photos, timelines, and official records that do not seem to add up. When you start putting the pieces of the puzzle together, the story of Meghan's life starts to look like it is hiding a secret. Maybe it is just a coincidence. Or maybe, as Megyn Kelly thinks, Meghan Markle is not the age she says she is. So let's look closer at the facts. It all begins with one single picture. It was taken at Northwestern University in the early 2000s. It is a group photo of the salsa club. At first, it looks exactly like what you would expect. There are smiling students with their arms around each other, frozen in time. Meghan Markle is standing there in the row. But this is where things get strange. If you look at that photo today in 2025 and check the names of the other people in the picture, you find something interesting. Many of them list their birthdays in the early 1970s. That makes them 52, 53, or even 54 years old now. But Meghan's official biography says she is only 44. The math does not fit. For this photo to make sense, Meghan would have to be a young college student hanging out with classmates who were 8 to 10 years older than her. Could that happen? It is possible in rare cases, but almost every person around her in that photo connects back to being a decade older. That is not just an accident anymore. It is a pattern. It is not just the salsa club either. Lists of students show Meghan's name next to the same older names in many different campus activities. When those classmates meet up for reunions today, the difference is very clear. Meghan's timeline puts her almost a whole generation behind them, yet the photo shows her smiling right there with them. Now we get to the main part of the story. Meghan Markle's official birth date is August 4, 1981. That date is written in biographies, magazines, and official royal papers. It has been repeated so many times that it feels like it must be true. But for years, people have whispered about different dates. Old classmates and people who say they knew her before she was famous point to earlier years. Some say 1977. Some even whisper 1975. If Meghan was born in 1977, she would not be 44 today. She would be 48. If it was 1976, she would be 49. And if the biggest claim is true, 1975, she would be turning 50 right now. That is not just a small mistake. That is a gap of 4 to 6 years. It means there is missing time in her life story. It is a gap where whole seasons of her life disappear from the official record. And when there is a gap like that, there is usually a reason for it. To understand how Meghan's timeline might have been changed, you have to look at the paperwork. Nothing shows this better than what happened in May 2019, right after her son Archie was born. Like every royal baby, Archie's birth certificate was filed in the United Kingdom. At first, it looked normal. It listed his mother as Rachel Meghan, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. It was a clear record of his mother's name. But then, only a few weeks later, something strange happened. The document was changed. Meghan's first names, Rachel and Meghan, were taken off completely. All that was left was her title, Her Royal Highness the Duchess of Sussex. The palace said it was just a small office change to make it match other royal documents, but people inside the palace were confused. Why would they need to make such a small change weeks later? Why didn't they do this for other royal mothers? The important part is not the name itself. It is about what this moment proves. It proves that official documents, which most people think are final, can be rewritten quietly without explaining why. If a royal birth certificate can be changed days after it happens, maybe other records in Meghan's life were changed long before she met the royal family. When you dig into Meghan Markle's early life, something else stands out: the photos. Every famous person has old pictures like yearbook photos, prom pictures, and school portraits. Usually these pictures come out naturally over time, but with Meghan it feels different. It feels controlled. Pictures like her senior headshot from 1999 or group photos in her uniform do exist, but notice when they show up. They don't appear randomly like most people's old photos. They appear in sudden bursts, almost like they were pulled out of a safe. They come out whenever people start asking questions about her background. They appear when a new book comes out, during a big interview, or when rumors about her age start again. It is not just the timing either. The people sharing these photos are interesting too. Some come from school lists, and others come from classmates who said nothing for years until suddenly a story breaks. To a normal person, it looks like memories. But to people paying close attention, it looks like a plan. It seems like certain pieces of the past are being shown to support a specific story. If high school memories can be managed this carefully, it makes us ask a bigger question: how much of Meghan's early life is just what we are allowed to see? Let's jump to early 2025. Meghan's half-sister, Samantha Markle, brought back her lawsuit. The lawsuit was about family fights and reputation, not about Meghan's age, but the timing was impossible to ignore. Almost as soon as the court dates were announced, the questions about her age came back in the news headlines. It was not subtle. Gossip columns and news reports started talking about Meghan's real age again. We have seen this pattern before. Every time there is a legal fight or a problem involving Meghan, the whispers about her age come back too. Some insiders believe this is done on purpose. They think the heat from one problem is used to bring up old, unanswered questions. Others think it just happens naturally because when she is in the news, everything from her past gets brought up. Either way, the result is the same. The courtroom acts like a spark, and the story about her age starts burning again. One problem drags the others with it until they all swirl together into a storm. Once a whisper is out in the world, it rarely stays small. In Meghan Markle's case, the way stories about her age spread shows how rumors can turn into something that feels like a fact. It usually starts with a single spark. Maybe a graduation date does not match. Maybe it is that photo from Northwestern where her classmates look older. One news website picks it up and calls it an exclusive. Within hours, the story appears in many places. Each version is a little different. A new headline here, a quote from an insider there. Soon, because it is repeated so much, it gets power. People stop asking if it is true or not. They just know they have heard it before. The story becomes part of the permanent trail following Meghan. It does not matter how many times it is denied. Once the paper trail exists, the contradiction lives on. So what happens if these different birth years are true? What if Meghan was born in 1977, 1976, or even 1975? It would mean her public timeline is hiding 4 to 6 years of her life. That might not sound like a lot, but in a biography as polished as Meghan's, every missing year is a shadow. Where was she during that time? What jobs did she have? What friendships and events happened that never made it into the official record? Those missing years are not just numbers. They represent a hole in the story. When a life story is carefully managed, a hole is never an accident. Whether it is for her career or her image, those years vanish for a reason. Some people argue that changing your age is nothing new. In Hollywood, actresses often say they are younger to get roles. It is a game that has been played for a long time. But here is the problem. Meghan did not stay in Hollywood. She joined the royal family, where every detail and document is supposed to be history. What might have been a private choice as an actress becomes a matter of public record as a duchess. We are left with a choice. Is all of this just a coincidence? Is it just a few odd classmates and mixed up records? Or is it a strategy? Is it a carefully managed story where every piece has been adjusted to fit the image we are supposed to believe? When you put the pieces together, it is hard to ignore the pattern. We see documents that can be rewritten. We see photos that only surface at the right moment. We see courtroom battles that drag old rumors back into the spotlight. At some point, coincidence starts to look like calculation. This is where the story lands. It is not just about a number. It is about how a life becomes a brand. It shows how every detail, from a high school photo to a royal birth certificate, can be polished and changed to fit the story being told. Think back on what we have seen. The salsa club photo with older classmates, the birth years that keep coming up, the royal document rewritten weeks later. The school photos that reappear only when the spotlight is bright. These are not random events. They line up like bricks in a wall built to hide something just out of sight. Maybe the official version is true, maybe it isn't, but we know for certain that the story has been shaped. The more carefully her story is managed, the more the world wants to know what is missing. Every story has a first draft, and sometimes the truth is hiding in the version we were never meant to read.